All right. Well, so we're starting a new chapter today. Yay! Oh my gosh, we're starting a new chapter. How to use it on page 51. And anybody who doesn't have a book, we do have some, lying around. So please feel free to grab one. And we just ask that they get left behind. How to use it. How to use it. So we've done the thing itself, like what the heck is it? The nature of reality. And we've talked about the way it works, the creative process, what it does, and now it's how to use it. And here we go. One of my favorite statements in the Science Mind that Ernest Holmes has ever said. One of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. We love to talk about it because it makes us feel good. We like to talk about it. Isn't it wonderful? We're all one. And yes, I co-create my own reality and all of those good things, especially in spiritual settings. We love to talk about it. And then we forget that at home, when we're in the middle of it, is when we're supposed to be practicing it. And we forget to use it when we actually want to shift consciousness or manifest something, right? And so the whole point of the Science of Mind is the practical application of this spirituality. It's good to understand it, but the most important thing is the practical application of it. And that means that we live from our spiritual principles to the best of our ability, and we engage in our spiritual practices to the best of our ability. Otherwise, it's really just a nice thought. Right? It's a nice thought, it's a nice theory, it's a nice way of maybe thinking about God and spirituality and who we are. It makes us feel better. So this is one of the big, shall we say, shifts that the Science of Mind brings to new thought and to mental science and even to the development of spirituality. In humanity, in that it was the turn from prayer is more than just physical healing. In the late 1800s or in the middle 1800s, religious healing was a very, very big thing. And of course, we have documented religious healings for centuries. And that the New Thought movement, unity, and divine science were both started by people who had experienced physical healings themselves through the use of this kind of New Thought philosophy, metaphysics, right? The Fillmores and Nona Brooks both had physical healings from knowing the spiritual truth and applying it. And Ernest Holmes actually did not have a personal physical healing. What he did was, the very first physical healing he was involved in was healing a boy of warts on the playground that he was the playground supervisor for in his late teens, early 20s when he first got to California. And so he was, and the first thing he opened was a sanatorium, which was a place of healing. And the idea that we can physically heal ourselves through the power of our consciousness and the use of the creative process began to really cultivate in him, well, but what about the rest of our lives? And too much spirituality is left in the church, or it's left on the meditation cushion, and then we go about the rest of our lives. And so the Science of Mind has a very practical bent to it. Our spirituality and the practice of our spirituality should make a difference in every aspect of our life, not just in our sense of wholeness or our physical healing, but also in our relationships, in our prosperity, in the contribution that we are making to the world, and our belief in the ongoing well-being of humanity and what we ourselves can contribute. And so there's a very practical application to it. And that it is actually our lives that demonstrate our belief in the teaching. We can say we believe it, but until our lives are demonstrating it, we are indulging in too much theory and too little practice. We're thinking about it, we're thinking how nice it is, we're reading, we're in classes, things like that, but we should expect our lives to begin to change in alignment with what we believe to be true. And for that, it requires the practical application, which means that instead of thinking about it, we want to keep practicing living from it. Living from the spiritual truths as if they were really true. What that means is, he goes on to say, we only know as much as we can prove by actual demonstration. Right? Know, meaning like embody, make it the place from which we are living in the world. So one of the challenges, of course, is that we're talking about principles that we can't actually see. And so we can be hesitant, and we can be hesitant to believe that it's true for us. Actually had a conversation in a class yesterday where a student said, well, I don't know that I can do treatment for those things. What if it doesn't work? That would be like going to the light switch and saying, I'm afraid to turn it on. What if it doesn't work? Well, sometimes maybe it doesn't, because there's a kink in the, right? There's a kink in the system. But if we understand how the system works, we go fix the kink, right? We fix the belief, we reorient our the way we're looking at something, we release a fear, right? This is the same thing. We're getting a kink out of it, and we expect the light to come on. But because it is so different from how most of us were raised, and the laws that we're talking about are what we call spiritual laws, right? It's hard to sometimes bend our mind around that they actually are ours to use. And yet spiritual law really, essentially only means that they're intangible, right? They're not physical because they aren't anything. But the truth is, all laws are intangible. All laws, the law of gravity, the law of aerodynamics, the law of mathematics, they're all intangible until we use them, until we actually apply them to something, some form, some expression, something. Its apparent intangibility is lessened whenever and wherever anyone actually demonstrates the supremacy of spiritual thought force over apparent material resistance. And so rather than being afraid, what if it doesn't work, what I'd like for all of us to do is take on the attitude of a scientist or someone like the Wright brothers, who are, by God, going to make this plane fly, right? By God, I'm going to prove that this is true. By God, I'm going to prove to myself, I'm going to prove that this stuff actually works. Right? And if we can build that attitude, or at least try to have that attitude, especially when we are applying this to areas of our life that are a little bit challenging, a little bit, maybe they feel big to us. Of course, the law doesn't know anything about big or little, but it is in the, and sometimes I feel like even in my spiritual mind treatments or in my spiritual work, it's like, I dare you, God. I dare you, the law. By God, you better by God show up. This better by God happen, right? And it's like, boom. And so do you see, it's an entirely different way of engaging with it. I can think of a million analogies. I can remember as a kid going up to the home plate in softball And instead of going, oh my God, I hope I can hit the ball. Oh gosh, the last time I struck out or it was terrible, right? Getting up there and going, by God, I'm going to hit that ball, right? And rather than shrinking from it I am going to prove that this works. Because it is that application and our willingness to demonstrate it to ourselves that grows our belief. And the more that we grow our belief, the more we grow our demonstrations, the more comfortable we are in using it, and the more we can use it for those things that seem really big to us, right? So it is to practice it. Goes on to say to prove such statements to be facts in our experience, we shall be compelled to do more than announce a principle, no matter how true it may be. Oh, we're all one, except for you people that I don't happen to like. Oh, we are all one, except for you people who have a belief system that I just really don't care for. Right? All the ways in which we announce principles, I absolutely know that there is a power and a presence that is whole. Let me tell you about how many ailments I have. Let me tell you about all the things that are wrong with me, right? And so there's the dichotomy that it's not just announcing a principle, but to actually work to demonstrate it and to use it. So I'm just highlighting some pieces here on page 52 and 53. It has been proved that by thinking correctly and by conscious mental use of the law of mind, we can cause it to do definite things for us and through us. By conscious thinking, we give conscious direction to it, and it consciously or unconsciously responds to our advance along the lines of this direction that we are giving it, right? It has been proved. Spiritually, mentally, therapy, psychology, so many ways it has been proved that this is true. We should stop undermining our own belief in this because it has over and over and over been true. It must and will respond to everyone because it is a law. And the law is no respecter of persons, which means it doesn't care whether you are nice or not, whether you prayed this morning or not, right? It operates in the same manner for every single person. Hence it follows, here at the bottom, hence it follows that if we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then according to the principle, it does not. But when it does not, it still does. Only it does according to our belief that it will not. I know, right? Damn. And so this is why Mary Baker Eddy says we have to stand guard at the portals of our mind. And we do have to confront our doubt. Well, I don't know if it's going to work for me. Well, I don't know if I'm doing it right. Well, I don't know that it's really going to, right? All the ways in which we doubt, all the ways in which we undermine it, all the ways. And even if we spend 15 minutes in really deep spiritual practice and we do our affirmations and we say our spiritual truths, and then we spend the rest of the day, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right about it, right? We're actually showing the law that we don't believe that whatever we were saying is true. And so it works by not working, actually, by not, right? By it is simply evidencing our belief. And this also, it's also our belief, and this is, well, this is really big. This is really big. I don't know that I can demonstrate something this big, whatever it is, a big healing, financial good, healing a relationship that's, really gone south. This is really big. Well, I don't know. The gravity seems to be holding the moon and the earth together. Does that not feel relatively big? And the gravity works on Jupiter and the sun and the galaxies, and the law knows nothing about big and little. Nothing, right? It's the shape in our own minds that is limiting how much we think it can actually do for us. And so it goes on to say this is our own punishment through the law of cause and effect. We do not enter in because of our doubts and fears. It is not a punishment imposed upon us by the Spirit of God, but an automatic result of failing constructively to use the law. Actually, we're using it actually not constructively for the things that we are thinking about, right? And so how to use it is to discipline ourselves to the best of our ability to keep over and over and over again coming back to what's the spiritual truth in this moment. How do I align myself with that spiritual truth, right? It could be some formal practice. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do a spiritual mind treatment. I'm going to affirm something, right? But most importantly, it's asking ourselves the question, where am I coming from in this particular moment? Am I coming from my fear, my doubt, my littleness, my, oh my God, I got to figure this out? Or am I coming from a place of trust, of openness, of an expectation of good, an expectation that this will work out somehow? Do you see? And so that is our job. And the law just simply says yes. It's just holding up a reflection in our lives to what's going on in our own consciousness. So God does not punish the mathematician who fails to obtain the right answer to his problem, right? It's we just didn't do it right. So down at the bottom here, the second to last paragraph, we should learn to control our thought processes and bring them into line with reality. This is the single most important spiritual practice. Where are we coming from in our thoughts and emotions, in the alignment of who we are? Where are we coming from as we move into the world? This is why self-awareness is so important, learning to listen to what's going on up here, using spiritual tools to rewrite the patterns of our thoughts and to rewire our brains, all in service to this controlling of our thought processes, because our conscious thought processes are what is rewriting the subjective, what's in our subconscious mind, which is, of course, what we believe to be true. And so we want to rewrite those patterns. We want to, just like we want to rewrite old programming, update our programming on our computers, fix the bugs, put out a new version, right? So let's stop there, and let's talk about this practice, this too much theory and too little practice. Where do you find yourself in this position where you are focusing on too much theory and too little practice? Where do you find the practice the most difficult, the engagement with this control of thought process, and how are you proving to yourself that this is the way it works? So, comments, sharings, thoughts.
What, you gonna skip over me?
No, I'm not.
Oh, geez Louise. Well,
Thank
we're doing things a little bit differently today. We're recording this so that folks later on will hear my lovely voice. So if you're hearing my voice right now, you know what time it is. Anyways, we're going to just take questions here from in the room. Usually we would do it online, but obviously we're having a little bit of hiccups on that. So for those here in the audience, I see we do have some raised hands, but if you'd like to talk, just raise your hand. And we're all going to be volunteers today and pass the microphone. So I'm going to play microphone pass.
Yay, thank you. Wonderful. Thanks, Richard.
Hi, I'm Cindy Young, and I am a spiritual coach here. And I just had two things I wanted to share based on what you were talking about. The first one was on the physical healing. When I first came to CSLDallas, I was recovering from breast cancer, just finished treatment, and I was just learning how to put this into practice. And I had gone in for a checkup, and they had noticed something on my thyroid, and they wanted me to go to a specialist. And I had nodules on my thyroid, and I got pretty scared, and I wasn't in a place, I was still had the training wheels on, I wasn't in a place where I could really do this from that place of knowing for myself. So I went to a practitioner or a spiritual coach here, and she did treatment. And when I went back in for the biopsy, there was no nodules on my thyroid at all. In fact, the doctor said, if I didn't know better, I would say I was looking at a different thyroid. Wow. So that was the first thing I wanted to share. Use the spiritual coaches if you don't feel like you can do it. That's the first lesson. The second one is that my granddaughter is testing for her senior black belt in Taekwondo this weekend. 2 months ago when she went in to test, I was out of town, but we have a spiritual practice on test morning typically, which we put into play yesterday. And she was having problems breaking her board. She had to break 3 boards, and she was not confident. So we did a spiritual mind treatment yesterday morning together. And when we got to the center for her to do her test, she just looked at me and said, I know I'm going to break those boards. And she broke all 3 boards first try. So it's just really important, because before she didn't have the confidence or know that she could do it. And when she said she knew she could do it, I knew that that was what the outcome was going to be.
Yay. Thanks, Cindy. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. And sometimes we use the word I know it. Sometimes we use the word I believe it, right? Some people like one word more than the other. Some people say, oh, I know it means I only know it intellectually, right? But for other people, I could hear that, right? I know it, right? So it's whatever word works for you that is that alignment, mind, emotion, body, boom, I believe this, I know this. It's less about the semantics of it, but about what you mean by that word. So I love the way that felt when she said that and you said that out loud. That's great. Thank you. And it is really great to have people who can know the truth for us when we don't know it for ourselves, right? That is what our spiritual coaches and our practitioners do. When they do spiritual mind treatment for us, or you see them after a Sunday celebration online or in person, or you put in a request for spiritual support, that's what they're doing. They're knowing these spiritual truths for and about your life, because they actually have already demonstrated to themselves enough that this stuff really does work, that they are convinced when they do it for you that it is actually working for you. So beautiful. Thanks, Cindy. All right, we have another comment in the back.
Hi, I'm Sheila. Thank you, Cindy. I think I needed to hear that, because I just this week was diagnosed with some arthritis in the low back, but more so a tear in the soft tissue in my hip joint. And I tend to be one who's very in self-control of my body. I'm very strong. I'm very focused. I do my yoga and hiking, biking, kayaking, and all that. I haven't been able to do anything in the last month, and it's depressing me. And it never occurred to me, why can't I look inside myself, to let the universe heal me? It has never occurred to me. I have to do it myself. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yes, and that's why we're in spiritual community together. That's why we have, practitioners, spiritual coaches we can go to. That's why we know we can apply these principles to anything, including our physical healing, our physical body, right? All of that working together. Yes, absolutely. And we know that that is so good for you. Yeah, I love that. Yes, please. Oh, 2 more here.
Hi, I'm Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
Remembering the practice. Last November myself and a group went to Egypt, and one of my colleagues got very sick. It was our last day, I think, in Egypt, and we were going to the pyramids. And I thought she would not make it to go into the pyramid. But Reverend Karen said, okay, you come so far, thus far, we're going to make it. And she started saying, there is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. And we climbed those stairs in the pyramid and went into the king's chamber by just repeating that every step of the way. And that was the manifestation of our belief system. So I was grateful for that experience. And another thing is, I listened to Abraham, and she said 16 seconds. I don't know the science about it, but she says if you find yourself in negative mode, 16 seconds is given to you for you to step out. Say something positive for the manifestation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. That's awesome, right? Those 16 seconds are there to shift. You have the opportunity to step in and shift. And, and that's what it means to practice this conscious, we should learn to control our thought processes and bring them into line with reality, right? That's exactly what that 16 seconds allows us to do. And the story that you just told, right? Over and over and over again to be in control of the thought process. Oh my God, I'm so sick. I don't think I can do it. Oh, there's so many stairs. Like that's really going to get you up the stairs, right?
It does.
It does not, right? And how many times do we find ourselves doing that? Oh, I didn't sleep very well last night. Oh, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. I didn't sleep very well. Right? And we've just set ourselves up, and the law just says yes. And so having that moment and then having something to rely on, especially in a situation like that, right? This is one of the best uses for affirmations. Short enough to remember. And then that's the thing that you can grab onto in those 16 seconds, right? That's the thing that you can grab onto and say to yourself. And then repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Every time your thought processes want to go where you don't want them to go. That's what it means to be in control of your thought processes, right? Because that's what it means to be conscious and self-aware, to realize that we can do that. We can, in fact, do that, which is a fundamental capability that we all have. And no matter how much we think we don't, we actually do. It's simply practice. It's a mental muscle that we practice. And it's one of the reasons why we teach meditation. Because it is in meditation that we learn how to A, observe our thoughts, notice what we're thinking about, and B, bring our thought process back to either the mantra or the breath or the silence or whatever it is that we're using in our meditation practice for the focus. And over and over again, we teach ourselves that we can do that. And that's the control of our thinking processes. And notice it says thinking processes, not just our linear left brain rational thought, but our overarching thinking processes, to be in control of that. That's our intention, our choices, our decisions, what we're going to focus on, and what we're thinking about. It's all of that together, right? And the conviction that goes behind it. I know this. By God, right? There's only one life. That life is God's life. I'm going to make it up these steps, and which is a whole different thing than, oh, I feel so bad. I don't know that I can do it. I'm so mad. I'm sick on the last day, and here I am, and it's such a, right? I mean, that's just go down right downhill. You're just going right downhill there. And nobody can control our thought processes but us. Now, practitioners, our spiritual coaches, can know truth and apply the law to our situation. And absolutely that can heal and that can change the condition. And what we teach in the science of mind is we do that to get support, to get help, but the practitioner's job is also to teach us how to do it for ourselves. We don't need a practitioner to invoke the law like we might have needed a priest to talk to God. Do you see? We don't want to put the practitioner in that position, but goodness gracious, it's so important to have somebody to lean into when they know the truth, when we're really struggling to know the truth, right? Do not ever, 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 ever hesitate to ask for that kind of help and support. It's really powerful. All right.
Okay, I don't even remember if I can remember what I was going to say. I'm Willie. I remember that. I think when I first came here, I've kind of had this kind of belief system my whole life, even though I was being pounded with other things. But I think in the beginning, when I started to practice, I could even though I could manifest something, I could deny that I manifested it.
Oh, yes.
You know, that I could make excuses for why it showed up. It was God's will.
Right.
I couldn't accept the responsibility or the power that it gave me, you know, to do that. And it's been a long process, you know, of turning that around and taking it on for myself and knowing that I can do it, and I don't always have to call somebody, and I don't always have to, you know.
Right. That's
Yeah.
the other side of it, right?
Yeah. And when my granddaughter called me a few weeks ago and she was struggling testing, you know, I didn't know what she was capable of hearing. So I just said, okay, I know that there are laws in the universe and that those laws work. And if you're focusing on your lack, on your inability to retain the material, then you're just going to get more of that. And there's the law of cause and effect, and what you put into this is what you're going to get out. And so the next time I saw her, I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, the next test I took, I made 95. And I said, "Well, what did you do different?" And she said, "I just told the universe to show me only the good."
I love that.
I did too. I thought,
That's right.
That works. That's perfect.
I love that. That's great. Thank you, Willie. Thank you for sharing that. But you say something really important. This is the good news and the bad news. The good news is that we can take responsibility for controlling our thought processes, right? And demonstrating. And of course, the bad news is when we don't control our thought processes, we are going to demonstrate whatever it is that that we are maybe not wanting. And it's hard to take responsibility for both sides of that. We don't want to take responsibility for the messes we've created with our own thinking process because of many, many childhood reasons, and well, it just doesn't feel great, right? But if we don't take responsibility for the messes, it's really hard to take responsibility for when we are in fact manifesting, because it's the same law that's operating. The other side of the coin is true. If we are not working to take responsibility for the fact that we in fact chose to create something good and to really own that the universe supported us in that, we will have difficulty owning up to and taking responsibility for the messes that we've made. Right? Both those, and so we need to work on both sides of that. Science of Mind is built on radical responsibility that we are co-creating our life experience, both tangibly and also internally with our reactions and perceptions of things. And so, yeah, the idea that we can take responsibility is very, very important. It isn't just spirit doing it for us, through us. It is actually life doing it as us. And we are in that co-creative dance all the time. All the time. Every day we wake up, we are co-creating the day that we are having. The question only is, are we participating in that consciously or not? Or are we just running on autopilot, on habitual ways of being in the world, on the habitual ways in which we think about things, right? And that's really the only difference, that we are trying to teach ourselves to be conscious of it. And then to show ourselves that this is happening by practicing, demonstrating things. Right? And sometimes it is good because we have this idea of big and little. Sometimes it's good to practice on demonstrating little things. Demonstrating, I don't know, tickets to an event that you think it might be hard to get tickets to, or demonstrating somebody taking you out to lunch, manifesting an invitation to lunch from friends because maybe since the pandemic you haven't been going out with friends for lunch. Or do you see what I'm saying? You can manifest all kinds of little things and begin to show yourself that, oh, I need something, I need a new whatever, something, and then all of a sudden you're there it is. You find it in a store that you didn't expect to find it in. And these are the ways in which we begin to practice and prove to ourselves that it works. And then we have more chutzpah to actually practice it on the things that we think are big. Not that the universe thinks it's big, but we think it's big. But now it's not so big because we understand that we're using laws. So this week, what we're really wanting to pay attention to is, are we applying this to our lives? What areas do we naturally apply it? Lots of us have areas in our life where we really just we just know it's all going to work out. For whatever reason, we don't have any issues around that area. And where are we not applying it? Where are we allowing the past or old beliefs or thought patterns to run? And so really paying attention to, are we controlling our thought processes? Now, if we're not used to doing it, be prepared. Be prepared. It can be very tiring. It can be very tiring. But it's no different than the first times you start going to the gym or you start walking and it's very tiring, until your body gets used to going to the gym or walking, and then all of a sudden your body actually wants it because it feels good. But at first, it doesn't feel so good, and we're sore and things like that. So being conscious of our thought and shifting the negativity to something that's an expectation for good, just be prepared. It is work. It is work. And yet the result is freedom. The result is freedom and a life that begins to manifest in alignment with how we would like it to be. And so just pay attention this week. See where there is a place where you can begin to practice a little bit more of the theory and not just talk about it. All right, so thank you for being here this morning. For those of you who are going to watch this online later, you'll see that we had a little technical difficulties, but we will be posting this and hopefully you'll be able to see it. Ryan, thank you, and Richard, thank you for making it all work out this morning. So we'll see you in the celebration here shortly. I don't know how to end it. Usually we end it on Ryan's usually giving me a wrap up. That's so funny. All right, thanks you guys. Yay.